The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you live and around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, live on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone TV, and on shortwave. If you'd like to give us a call, 1-877-528-8255. That's toll free at 1-877-528-8255. My email address is xzone@talkstarradio.com. On MSN Messenger, talkstarradio@hotmail.com. And our websites, www.xzoneradio.com. And you can watch, listen, and chat at www.xzonetv.com. I'd like to welcome all the members of the X-Zone Nation who are now joining us here on the Talkstar Radio Network with their local radio station. Welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. Today is Friday. Well, it is in Eastern Canada, anyway, in the United States, Friday, June the 27th. And on this day in 1652, America's first traffic law went into effect when galloping was banned in the streets of New Amsterdam, which eventually became New York City. In 1847, New York and Boston were connected by telegraph wires. On this date in 1882, the Bank of Japan was established. If you're wondering, yen, get it? Yen when? Okay. In 1955, Illinois became the first state to require seatbelts. Today is Tobey Maguire's birthday. They turned 33. And the former presidential candidate Ross Perot turns 78 today. My guest this hour is Erik Stearns. Erik is no stranger to the X-Zone Nation. And this is we're not going to be doing psychic readings with Erik tonight. We're not going to be talking about what's the news, or we're not going to be talking about New Age spirituality. But I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. On February the 10th in 2004 in Austin, Texas, a dog was stabbed. The accused and later convicted was none other than Erik Stearns. His story begins with that incident on that fateful day. It was later determined that he was the only suspect in the case merely because he was the only one to complain about a barking dog to his apartment manager. Later that day, his house was entered, and during his apprehension by the law, his house was searched with no plain sight probable cause. There was none. It turns out that the police never even found a weapon or tangible evidence, and no search warrant. Now, in addition, his name and face were plastered all over the media. This didn't help his case, and his court-appointed lawyer would do nothing to represent him, thus landing him in jail for a whole year. Upon returning, he tried to connect with his old communities and friends, but found out that his name was so slandered by many prominent members of the communities. He was further accused of other things, one of those being trying to corner a child. This also was not the case, nor is there any evidence or any other official documentation to substantiate this claim. Yet these people continue to pursue him, sending slanderous and other attack-orientated emails to his contacts and venues that he performs at, plastering flyers and at places where he plays to educate the audience, intimidating him, etc. Yet there are the same people whom, in the same breath, would tell you all about how they are in the modern burning times and how they are being persecuted. When we come back from this 2-minute commercial break, Erik Stearns joins us, and we're going to be talking about this story and how it affected Erik's life and how it could indeed happen to you. Erik Stearns is my guest this hour when the X-Zone returns on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break. Live and around the world, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away, X-Zone Nation.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine like hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining room can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you're visiting, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, or psychic phenomenon? Join me, Tim Bartley, co-host of Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, coming mid-January 2017 to the XZBN. We will channel spirits live and talk to them, revealing all kinds of amazing information. Spiritual attachments will be found and removed on the show, and so much more. To find out when you can listen to Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, visit www.xzbn.net for listeners on both sides of the veil.
Welcome back, everyone. Erik Stearns is our special guest. And Erik, welcome to the X-Zone, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Tell us how all this happened from the very beginning, would you, Erik?
Sure, absolutely. Let me spell out the facts for you so that way everybody has a very clear, unambiguous picture of what had happened that day of February 10th, 2004. It started a little bit earlier than that. I was up all night working on several projects, and this was kind of during the times that I had worked for you as bureau chief for the X-Zone. And I was working on a couple of music projects as well as studying to get an advanced certification as a Reiki master and so forth and so on. So I had been pulling about a 36-hour straight shift. Around 6 o'clock a.m. That morning of the 10th, basically I came to a stopping point and decided that since I had a gig that night and so forth and so on, and I needed to do some traveling, get some things that I needed for the upcoming gigs and pick up my instruments, which were being worked on by a friend of mine, that I needed to get some sleep. So that's exactly what I tried to do. I went and showered, went to bed about approximately 6:15, 6:30, somewhere around there. Couldn't get to sleep because crossing below from me was a dog that was barking, and I was in a part of the complex that I was living at the time, a part of that complex that allowed no pets whatsoever, and that was partly the obvious reason why. I basically did everything for the next 2 hours or so that I could in order to try to get some sleep, but to no avail. And finally, I was PO'd enough that I figured not only was I going to go through proper channels, but I was going to go through proper channels and basically get in their face and demand why somebody was being allowed to do this, and people who were also around me wouldn't be able to get any sleep either, considering the fact that they were night shift workers. And so I went down there. I was told that the guardians or keepers of the dog, whatever, would have 24 hours to get rid of the pet, or they would face eviction procedures. Well, of course, this didn't help my case, at least as far as my predicament was concerned. So I promptly, after basically just kind of accepting what they had to say and not necessarily believing it, I went back to my apartment, went upstairs to work on my music newsletter, and had gotten some work done, and then finally noticed that everything was a little bit quiet. I looked back down at my computer clock. It was 11:33. I remember that vividly because that was right around the turning point that where something was probably wrong, but I had no idea until later on. So I figured I'd crash into bed, get up about 2:30 or so, which would give me about 3 hours of sleep, and I'd be good to go. Later on, I guess about a couple hours later, I wasn't sure exactly what time it was. I think it was about 1:30 or 2 in the afternoon. I got up because somebody was banging on my door. I was expecting a package. I was thinking it was UPS, and I asked who it was. They said it was the police. I said, just a second. I wanted to pull on some clothes. I wasn't even dressed. And next thing I know, cops are entering my door. I'm turned around, handcuffs thrown on the couch, and they're ransacking my apartment and basically saying I was under arrest for a dog being stabbed. Subsequently, they entered my apartment only with an arrest warrant. They did not have a search warrant. They had no plain sight probable cause. There was nothing laying around that was out of the ordinary. Everything was pretty much, clean, put up, and, things were shut down. Nothing out of disorder, so forth and so on. But they proceeded to look through my closets, my kitchen, everything. I was taken to jail. I was appointed a court-appointed attorney who subsequently did nothing, even despite the fact that he could have easily won that case. They had no evidence. When I asked him for what evidence that they supposedly had against me in order to indict me, he would not come up with it. He just came up with an arrest warrant affidavit, which I thought was pretty insulting to the intellect, to say the least. After doing my own research and doing case study and stuff like that, basically doing the homework for my lawyer, basically it came to no avail. I was pretty much shut down. All the pleas, or basically all the motions that I had filed were denied. And so therefore I was subsequently, pretty much pinned against the wall, so to speak, with a 2 to 10 year sentence because supposedly a knife was used as an aggravated weapon. And I was told that if I didn't plead guilty, that I would get that. If I pled guilty, then I would spend another 2 months in jail after a 10-month bout with the court system, but yet I would still have a felony on my record. Afterwards, and let me rewind this.
Sure.
There was no way that I could have climbed that balcony, supposedly where that dog was at, for the following reasons. One, I'm visually impaired. It's hard for me to see, certain types of terrain in order to step without, either twisting an ankle or worse. Second of all, it was, and this is something that everybody can check, the weather forecast that day, we were under a winter storm advisory. We were getting sleeting rain and or freezing rain and sleet, and things were already slick as it was. The third point is that these balconies were made of diagonal slat boards. In other words, is that they went diagonally. There was no way to get a really good foothold, especially in the middle of thorny bushes. So how in the heck could I have gotten over that without injuring myself, or worse, or even killing myself for that matter, and stab this dog and get back over and get back to the apartment. Second of all, as far as I was concerned, when I went to the management office and back from the apartment, I noticed that there was nobody around. They said they had witnesses. They weren't willing to bring those forward at all. So then I spent a year in jail, basically kind of in the meantime being interrogated by guards and prisoners as far as what I did. And I got out, tried to reconnect with my communities, only to find that not only my name was plastered all over the media, newspaper articles and the like. But basically, there were a lot of other people within the community whose names I will mention tonight, because they've gone forward to accuse me on public websites, email lists, etc. As far as my alleged history with supposed animals. It even blossomed to the point where these campaigns were becoming less and less effective because I kept finding new avenues to promote myself. But then they decided to come up with a second accusation, saying that I cornered a child in attending a ritual that I never attended in the first place. Why
were you being targeted by these people?
I think what it is that, simply put, these people are very confused. They're reactionary pagans, not to, not to totally broad brush the path, but these are people who have chosen the pagan path for whatever reason, and who have also brought over their issues from their previous paths and are looking basically for a scapegoat, so that way they don't have to focus on their problems. The only reason why I was such a target was because of the fact that I was gaining somewhat of a somewhat of notoriety because of my musicianship and my dealings with the community and so forth and so on. And because I was a semi-public figure and then plastered all over the media, everybody decided that they were going to go for the fear and not look for the facts and basically go right after me, which is very typical of, both the Council of Magical Arts, ESA, Earth Spirit Alliance, and U Grove Cups and other organizations around here in Central Texas. And I think that just because of that I was, kind of well-known beforehand, and they were already having, their own little witch wars because of politics and so forth and so on, they decided that basically they could place their blames on me and therefore cleanse their consciousness of anything else.
Police enter your place. They don't have a search warrant. They have an arrest warrant. There's nothing in plain sight. How could they convict you if there were no witnesses, there was no weapon?
That's what I'd like to know. Yeah. Constitutionally, they cannot do that. Constitutionally, when they went into my house without a search warrant, they were already violating my right, to basically having a search warrant, knowing what they were searching for, which is directly related to the Fourth Amendment, which protects against illegal search and seizure. And also, it also violated in other ways the 14th Amendment. But it was the Fourth Amendment that was continually violated. I don't know how or why they can get away with this. My story is not necessarily atypical. It's something that you hear going on a lot about our quote-unquote justice or legal system. And, it just, it bothers me that here it is that this can be done with such impunity, and at the same time that somebody who did not commit this crime, it was not me, can go on being punished over and over again, for something that he didn't do when the facts were never really borne out.
Why do you think the public defender did not defend you?
I think one is there's two reasons that I think are the situation. One is that a lot of these public defenders are overloaded. They are they have a lot of cases on their plate as it is. They're chosen as public defenders for different cases because of the fact that they're on some sort of rotation. I happen to get this guy. And I just don't think that he really, to be honest with you, gave a damn about my case. And I don't know why he did this. I asked intelligent questions. I did the homework for him. I did all the research and all that stuff. This is something that he should have been doing. Why it is, I have no idea. Why. And that attorney's name is Kyle Tom Lowe. I have no idea why Kyle has done this and why he, has chosen to take, action in order to ruin somebody's life. I think that's incredibly unprofessional. And I think, too, the second reason is that it was probably out of his own personal bias, which is also against state bar rules, if I'm not mistaken.
His bias about what?
About, I think it's about animals and stuff like that, plus it was on the media, all over the news and all that stuff, and I don't think he really wanted anything to do with that sort of spotlight.
All right, stand by, Eric. You and I have to take a couple of minutes with the news at the bottom of the hour. When we come back, more of this very interesting story as the X Zone continues live and around the world right here on the Talkstar Radio Network.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. Our toll-free number is 1-877-528-8255. That's toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. My email address, xzone@talkstarradio.com, and on MSN Messenger, talkstarradio@hotmail.com. Two websites, www.xzoneradio.com, and to watch, listen, and chat with the X Zone Nation, www.xzonetv.com. This portion of the X Zone is being brought to you by Amira Soul Mystic. Her website is www.soulmystic.com. Erik Stearns is our special guest, and Erik, I have to ask you a question at this time. Did the police or did the judicial system at any time, or even the district attorney, believe, or was there any suggestion that this was a satanic killing, that the dog had been killed for satanic reasons?
I didn't hear anything about that. I have nothing to, I have nothing as far as any knowledge is concerned about that. It would just seem to me that I don't know what it was. Maybe somebody was pissed off or something like that, but I don't know if it was, I don't know. I wasn't there. I just happened to be the one who was fingered for it.
Now, once again, I believe that in our judicial system, you should have been able to confront your accusers.
That's what I would have thought too.
So, why did the system fail?
I think part of this is because of the fact that DAs and defenders are so. I guess to me it seems like and I could be totally wrong about this, but this is my opinion, and that is that these people are just basically there to make money. They make money off of the prison system. Maybe not necessarily the lawyers themselves, but somebody's making a whole bunch of money off of the prison system. That's one of the reasons why supposedly why Texas now has the state jail felony or fourth degree felony statute, and it's because of the fact that they're putting more and more people in prisons and or on probation, so forth and so on, and that's why plea bargains, 95% of the cases that go through the criminal justice system, whether the person is guilty or not, 95% of them basically end on some sort of plea bargain because they literally tire you out. It's a war of attrition. The longer you're out, especially if you're on bond, it takes just as long it takes a little bit shorter, but it still takes just about as long if you're in prison. And I think really in a way this is money driven.
Do you have any idea who actually killed that dog?
I have no idea.
This is really, truly bizarre.
Yeah, it is. And, that's why a lot of times during the day I ask, why me? Why me? Why garner all this attention? I don't quite understand this, but needless to say, 4.5 years down the line, and the system's, the situation still persists with these people, and it just, to me, it boggles my mind, and it really saddens me. I mean, I look at this incident, and to be honest with you, I have no hope for the human race when it comes down to stuff like this. I really don't.
How has this affected your life, your personal life, your career?
In every way. It's affected my music career. It's affected even my job search. I was turned down on 2 offers, one because of the fact that I had a felony on my record. Even though I was willing to explain things, saying, hey, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. These were, the circumstances. They won't hear of it. They see felony, boom, you're out the door. Same with trying to find a place to live. I would say that, these people, these pagans, with regard to ESA, CMA, and U-Grove, and all these other organizations that I used to belong to, I think with them, they just, they like to play vigilante. They have this hero complex, and I'm just their perfect villain as far as they're concerned. They've never really asked for any proof.
But why were you the perfect villain? I don't understand this. Why were you targeted by these organizations?
Because it was a crime against nature, Rob. Because that's exactly what it was. It was simply a crime of nature. I stabbed a dog. I supposedly, killed one of the goddess's children and did harm and so forth and so on. And according to their beliefs, that's, on the order of high treason.
All right, but if you did not commit the offense, why did you plead guilty?
Because I didn't want to be hit with a 2 to 10 year sentence. I wanted to get back into society as much as possible. And when I found out that my lawyer was not doing anything, I figured, that's it. You can't fight the system, which was a major mistake on my part.
Couldn't you have asked for a different lawyer?
I could have, but I've also had a couple of other people who have been through the system, and one of them actually did fire their court-appointed attorney and was basically intimidated by the judge, either to, basically accept the next lawyer that was given to him, or basically there would be consequences. There's intimidation that goes on.
Now, you read the affidavit for the arrest warrant.
Mm-hmm.
What was the proof in acquiring the arrest warrant?
Supposedly there was an eyewitness. Now, get this. The description was very vague. They just said, quote, unquote, that it was a guy in a green jacket. There was nothing as far as hair color, hair length, what the person was wearing, so forth and so on. It was just a guy in a green jacket. Well, yes, I happened to be wearing a green jacket when I went down to management, but I also passed about a half a dozen other people, or a couple of other people that had green jackets, and they were on their way to work at the time. This was about 8:45 in the morning when I went to go to management to complain about this, and it just said a guy in a green jacket, nothing more, nothing less. It's public record; anybody can look that up, and that's all it was. And as far as I know, somebody was coached into to saying that so they could wrap up the case.
These organizations that you were talking about, the pagan organizations.
Yes.
Tell us more about them.
Well, let me try to keep this as unbiased as possible. Unfortunately, I have very strong opinions about these organizations, but these are pagan organizations, or basically pagan interfaith organizations. Council of Magical Arts and Earth Spirit Alliance are basically 2 organizations that are basically for networking and supposedly sharing of ideas and so forth and so on. Same with U-Grove Cups, which is part of the Universal Unitarian Church. They're basically pagan outreach organizations as far as that's concerned. That's what their function is. If you ask me, I think, one, they've grown a little too big for their britches, and two, they've gotten a little bit too political because of the fact that one was an offshoot of another due to a schism earlier that year or earlier the previous year, back in 2003, and it was a result of bad politics. And a lot of the same leaders that were in CMA are in ESA as well as in New Grove. So unfortunately, we've got a couple of very hot-headed, very crazy people in positions of power that, as far as I'm concerned, especially for a spiritual organization, should not be in any sort of position or responsibility.
Had you belonged to these organizations?
Yes, I did. I was a member of CMA from 2002 up to 2004, and was invited back in late 2003 to be a member of ESA as well as part of their core talent. In other words, a musician that would play at their festivals on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, I had even negotiated at least a verbal contract with them to play all 5 of their scheduled festivals that year, and as part of my tour. And but of course that didn't happen because of the ensuing incident.
Do you have any idea, or any hunches, or any hypothesis on why you were fingered out for this crime?
The only one that I have is basically that I was kind of a victim of magic. Unfortunately, I had relations with basically I was friends with not only some of the higher ups in CMA, but also another person who basically prides herself on being kind of a man destroyer. She talks about a lot of her ex-husbands, so forth and so on, being being destroyed by her in one way or another, and so forth and so on. I had parted ways with her, banned her from my lists because of the fact that the list that I was running at the time, banned her because of the fact that I was getting harassing emails from her, so forth and so on. And then one day I got a threatening letter saying that you're going to need, saying, quote, "You're going to need me or else your ship will sink." And I really, to be honest with you, have a feeling that and this is just something, it's something that necessarily I can't prove tangibly, but I can basically say that, I'm sure that considering that she is somewhat of a powerful magician, she basically didn't necessarily cause things to happen, but I'm sure that some gateway was opened of some sort.
1-877-528-8255 is toll free. Erik Stearns is our guest. And Erik, the owner of the dog, what kind of dog was it, first of all?
According to the newspaper article, it was a white Pomeranian, supposedly a white Pomeranian puppy.
Now, had you ever seen this dog before?
No, I haven't.
Were there other complaints into the super's office about this dog?
Yes, I did. When I went to the management office, I found that there were at least 2 other complaints. They said that a couple of other people had called in. They already knew about the problem, but according to apartment rental regulations and stuff like that, that they could only give 24 hours notice on that.
So after the after everything has been said and done, you've had a chance to sit down and look at the events as they unfolded. Don't questions pop up in your mind like flags are popping up all over in mine?
I've thought about this incident, I don't know how many hundreds of times. I've thought about the whole situation currently and when it started. And yeah, flags do pop up in my mind. And unfortunately, if I had answers to those questions, I think I wouldn't be making such a public plea for help as far as that's concerned.
Did you go to the police department afterwards and say, guys, what was all this about? What was your evidence? I'd like to see my file.
I never really went back because of the fact that when you plead guilty, there's nothing else that you can do. You can't appeal it or anything like that. And as far as proving it to these other people and trying to, get them to wake up and say, hey, things don't add up here, they've already made up their minds. They made up their minds, when the media stories broke on, I think it was February 11th or 12th, and they made up their minds and basically made up their minds since then, and have endeavored to make sure that everybody else's mind parallels theirs.
All right, so just let's try and get this clear. Were you a threat to anybody within either one of these two organizations, or a threat to anyone else? Were you doing anything that would tick anyone off? Had you, there has to be a motive. What was the motive behind this?
Well, I will confess that I was, how should I say, asked to do psychic readings on several members of the organizations in order to basically figure out what their motives were as far as what they were going to do next for the against the organization or for the organization. Basically, I was kind of intelligence for hire, and I think maybe if that came down to the case, that's the only thing that I can say that maybe I did wrong. I basically was called on to do some remote viewing. I was brought in on several consultations for different factions, and I think that I ended up taking a fall, karmically for something that I probably should have known better not to do.
Erik, stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Erik Stearns is our guest, X-Zone Nation. He's going to be with us until the top of the hour. If you'd like to call up, ask a question, get a clarification, give me a call at 1-877-528-8255. It's toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii at 1-877-528-8255. Still to come on tonight's show, Cal Korff will be joining us from the Czech Republic, the beautiful city of Prague, after the news at the top of the hour. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone, live and around the world. We're right here on the Talkstar Radio Network. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
19 Sergeant Central. 19 Sergeant, check. Officers on the scene.
Hi, I'm Larry Lawson, host of Paranormal Stakeout. With over 36 years in law enforcement, I have learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, UFOs, and extraterrestrials, how we gather the evidence, preserve that evidence, and present it to a jury of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Join me, Larry Lawson, every week on Paranormal Stakeout when, along with my guests, we'll take a journey to prove with indisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Go to xzbn.net for the broadcast schedule and check me out at paranormalstakeout.com.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world.
That's Broken Glass by Ty Hall. and the easy 3. 1-877-528-8255. That's toll free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii at 1-877-528-8255. Erik, a question comes to mind. Now, you're a psychic. You do remote viewing, right?
Right.
How come you did not foresee this happening, and how come you can't use your remote viewing to go back in time to see who the actual perpetrator is of this crime?
Any skilled remote viewer will tell you that if you're too close to the problem, you're not going to get accurate answers. Me being in the middle of this, there's no way that I could have gotten any accurate answers without my imagination getting away with myself.
All right, is there any other psychic or any other remote viewer that you know and trust that could actually do this?
Not around here that I know of, no. However, there was one incident where somebody told me of one of the perpetrators of the rumor mill, and I never heard from her again. She said to tell no one, which I never did. And from that time on, she just totally disappeared. Her email address went down. I couldn't get a hold of her by phone. I had both means of contacting her, so forth and so on, and she just flat out disappeared. I had no idea what happened to her.
This is truly a strange and bizarre case. Do you plan on pursuing the actual perpetrator, the guilty party, and clearing your name?
Well, I don't know if that can really be done, given the fact that there's so much time passed. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to go after the people who have been making my life an utter living hell. Mm-hmm. And basically, if they want to try to shut me down, they're going to have a hell of a fight on their hands. Their biggest mistake is that they didn't get rid of me.
Do you think that was their intention, or was this a warning?
I think that's what their intention was. I don't think that this was a warning. I don't think that they're capable of that.
What's your next move?
Try to get the word out as much as possible. Let people know who these people are and what they're all about. In the meantime, I don't think I'd ever trust anybody who calls themselves pagan or a lawyer again, or both. It's just I hate to say that, but that's just the way that things are.
The accusation where you cornered a child, where did that come from?
That came from when I supposedly attended a ritual. All I did was, on that day that I was not supposed to be there, according to a prior agreement, I wasn't. I just dropped off a donation to a benefit that, or to a charity that I had played a benefit for. This ritual was in part a benefit to them. I decided to, basically pay homage to that charity. Mm-hmm. Dropped off a donation to one of the officers of U Grove Cups, and who is also one of the officers of Tejas Webb. I dropped off the donation, turned around, left. Didn't really want to have anything to do with it anyways, and 8 days later, I get this call from Stephanie Canada, who was one of the organizers of this ritual, and who is also one of the figureheads, not only of U Grove but of the other organizations as well. And basically, as soon as I picked up the phone, she's screaming at me and so forth and so on, saying that I cornered somebody's daughter.
Erik, we've run out of time for tonight. We'll have to have you back on to conclude this very interesting and unique case. When we come back, Hal Korff joins me here in the X Zone, right here on the Talkstar Radio.